Okay. Listen, relax. Bitcoin's just taken a little bit of a move lower. We understand that. Now there's been quite a bit of movement across the board. NASDAQ just dropping. Fallout is what it's called. Of course, I've just gone onto X and there's been a lot of deposits and removals of certain crypto in wallets, and everyone is all now like, what the hell's going on? Let's be honest now, because we're so attached to the idea of Bitcoin's price going from 78 down all the way towards 72,900, everyone's wetting the bed. Well, let's just understand something. Is your Bitcoin going down because people are scared, maybe? Or is it because the NASDAQ's gone down? Is it got anything to do with macroeconomic data? Has it got anything to do with the fact that we're going to have interest rates higher for longer, even though they kept on barking about they're going to have the interest rates or they should be getting cut? What they shoulda, woulda, coulda is a different story to what we're dealing with right now. Of course, you may not know, or you may have already found out, that the US approves funds to end government shutdown. But whilst that's happening, Iranian drones are being shot down on any of the ships in the Atlanta, is it? Let me just make sure that we'll break that down. But yeah, it's, you know what? It's absolutely wild times to be alive. So what we're going to do is we're just going to break it all down, give you everything that you guys need, because it's actually quite chaotic. I'm looking at the NASDAQ and it's just completely bled out today. And if you manage to exploit that, happy days. Let's break it all down. This is just a 4-year cycle playing out. Probably, maybe. I mean, I don't know, man. You had Raul talking about it's not about the 4-year cycle anymore. It's about the ISM cycle. You pick and choose when you want the 4-year cycle to work. Does it make sense? It's either going to be the cycle or not. Ultimately, it's everyone's perception of value, okay? So let's just break it all down, help you understand what's going on, try and keep this live short and sweet, give you a bit of a prep on what's going on. Word on the street is that Bank of Japan are going to be increasing their interest rates. That's something that we've got to be very careful of. To 75 basis points, apparently it's going to be happening this evening, but I'm just looking at my sources. I'm not really seeing if it's confirmed just yet, but let's break it all down, guys. Here we go. So quickly bring up the news right now. We're just going to refresh this bad boy. I already did it. Says here, stocks fall from near record lows as oil jumps. Why is oil jumping? Because of this. Iran signals willingness to deploy proxies if the US attacks. Basically, Donald Trump is the one that does the threatening, not Iran. It says Iran's leadership views a potential US war as existential, increasing the likelihood it will deploy proxy forces alongside its own military. This is big stuff, man. You know, the website, look, oilprice.com, these guys don't really put up BS. And when you're getting this intelligence and you're rolling it out, it's getting investors a little bit concerned. Quickly going over into oil's price right now, just to understand where we are. It's moving up, but not so great, but it's up 1.67%. Just quickly going over to the NASDAQ, just have a look. I mean, what an absolute brilliant move to the downside. It has been absolutely wild. Guys, better, how you doing? We are living in a effing movie, bro. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. It is a wild movie. It's early because Bitcoin is moving and it could potentially get ready to do some movement right now. That's why I'm actually on this live, just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up on what's going on. The QQQ, just to let you know, has just actually broken a key call wall area at 615. Massive call wall. If there is no support in this, we're basically going to wet the bed. And it looks like it could be even going down as low as 606. The call wall itself is between 615 and 610 support. So if they do trigger 610, which they were ever so close towards today, then there's a possibility that NASDAQ, if it finds support here, then it can make a reversal. But it could be because tonight we have the earnings for AMD. What if they mark it all down just to prepare it to come back up and AMD is going to come out with some stellar rewards? Okay, let's just break it down here. Look at this. This happened earlier on, which is what triggered the idea of the NASDAQ moving lower. Okay, ministers were arguing about who was going to be put in charge and what have you. Trump wasn't happy at all about this. All right, which is what fueled the NASDAQ to make a move to the downside. I can't lie. We made some money today. All right, the group, everybody, platinum members, you would have ripped it apart if you took the trades that we put out today. I'm going to break that all down. Here it is. So Bitcoin, there was our short on the vector candle block, waiting for the move to the downside to break down. It was trying, okay? But They didn't do anything, and everyone was on the expectation that these are the lows, you should be buying Bitcoin, buy here. Well, anyone that did buy got ripped a new. Anyways, they broke it down. We wanted to see 74,606, and Bitcoin just completely obliterated that. Came down all the way to 72,919. So those guys, I gave you the heads up earlier, man. 4-hour candle, watch out for reversals, and they've just done it right there. We had the same thing covered with Solana and Ethereum, as you can see right there. And then, of course, the NASDAQ for me was the one. Sorry, where is it? Here's NASDAQ. This was the best play today. NASDAQ to consolidate inside of this range, stop run up to then roll over and take out the 25,660. And then, of course, we go into that. We have a look at that, and you can see it just completely ripped it to the downside. Took out all our targets, 25,215. Now, there's things that I did today. I took this trade at 11 o'clock this morning, just after I sent out the setups to everyone. And what I'm doing as lately, guys, is I'm doing the setups a little bit differently, where it comes with a market regime. It's a document, and it breaks down everything that you need to understand for the day on what news can impact price to move up or down, okay? And it comes with an explanation, everything that you need to set yourself up for the day. And that gives you a bias, it gives you a directive, so that whilst you're trading, you're keeping an eye out on this. And whilst you were looking at Bitcoin going sideways, all right, you would have been referring to that actual document, and you would have been understanding that it is showing signs of bearishness, because that's where everything was skewed towards today. And that was all on the back of understanding macroeconomic data. We are in event risk trades, ladies and gentlemen. That's where we are. Some news comes out, screws the market, and that's the result of it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to get into a Bitcoin price action, but just to break down this NASDAQ trade today. Took the short at 11:15 this morning, and I opened options. So here are my options that I played today. So we cleared really well on the options. I opened puts at 11:15. What was that update? Why is it? No, not 3:15. Or was it? Yeah, 15. Why is it that now? I closed it at 3:15. Yeah, I opened the shorts today on puts, favoring move to the downside on the NASDAQ. It was just shortly after I put the update out, and they took a little while, but they rolled over. And then I opened some calls on NASDAQ reversing, and we ended up with a £10,597 day on this options chart here. This is where I play the options. It's spread options, okay? So it is options, but I play spreads, all right? So it's a little bit of a different, it's tax. Anyway, so we'll talk about that another time. But we had a good day, and we ripped the short to the downside, left some on the table. I closed off on this violet vector candle because I had to make a move. But, of course, they're now trying to make a little bit of a recovery back up, okay? But, of course, when it comes to cryptocurrency, Bitcoin has come down and swept the range. Now, let me break down exactly what you've got to understand about what's happening with Bitcoin now. You go over to the daily time frame to understand the logic. Right now, Bitcoin is doing a little bit of a recovery. There's nothing to be excited about. Look left. We've just taken this key area at 74,565, and this candle needs to close above it. If the candle for the day does not manage to close above that point, and the next daily candle reverses aggressively, there's a strong chance Bitcoin is being primed to work lower. Lower means that we could be going down towards the 69,251. Michael Saylor's position is probably getting in the red right now. And of course, Tom Lee's position, minus 5 billion. What's it at? Ethereum has just taken a bleed to the downside. Let's have a look at Ethereum. He's doing a good job of coming up, but he's obviously in a mad drawdown. So I wonder what his story is there. And ladies and gentlemen, it's all because of news. Okay, that's all it is. US stocks drop on fears AI will hit software and analytics groups. What analytic group are you guys familiar with? Shall I introduce you to it? Come on. Where are you? There you are. Their business changed to being a Bitcoin treasury, but this is an analytics company. How's it looking? Basing their earnings per share on their Bitcoin holdings, a little bit steep, given that it's now taking a little bit of a tumble to the downside. Volume not as much on the distribution side, but price action is bleeding out. There is movement to the downside, and fund owners have been taking off their positions with MicroStrategy. It went from September 25 at 1,516 fund owners, and now at December quarter, they've dropped it to down to 1,457. It's not good, man. They're offloading on this. Quickly going over into the bids and the offers with Bitcoin. You could look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, when we go back to this chart, just remember, when price rises, they sell it. When price drops, they buy it. Look how much buying's been happening today. Lots and lots of buying. Lots of buying. Don't worry. Bitcoin's it's not dropping too much. Don't worry about the likes, people. It's just going to be a short, quick live, and then we're done. You know? But look at what we're dealing with right here. Yeah? We're dealing with the idea that the bids are coming in quite aggressively. Okay? So they're buying it up. Forget about everybody else's positions, your Tom Lees, your Michael Saylors, whatever. Focus on the narrative of what's going on with Bitcoin. Okay? You've got one more zone. And look, I'll be frank with you guys. Given that it's macro driven, as long as there's geopolitical events, Bitcoin will go down. Okay? As long as there is this story that interest rates are not going to get cut, Bitcoin will go down. As long as the yield on the dollar sustains itself, because look, dollar is coming away from these lows, but it's doing very well to hold out from these lows. It's closed this little gap right here. We've got exhaustion gaps coming into play down here. And if you look at the way it's been behaving today, it's consolidating. They are building their positions in dollar. Going over into the yield market, you can see the 2-year yield has now come down. Why? Because investors are seeking safety. But hold on. The stock market's down, Tino. Doesn't it mean that when the yields go up, the stock market goes down? Correct. But when the yields go down, the stock market goes up. Well, look, the bond market is now trading positive. The 10-year futures are shooting up. The ultra bonds are shooting up. Okay? And the only reason they're moving up is because investors are seeking the safety of the bonds. They just want to get rid of risk and just go into what they know, which is cash and, of course, low risk assets. You'll be asking the question about gold. Look what gold is doing. This is a huge tell, right? Let me break it down. Gold goes up for a number of reasons, and it goes down for a number of reasons. Remember this. When interest rates are going to get cut, gold goes up. Why? Because as a zero-yielding asset, investors favor putting their money into gold so that they can take advantage of the fact that the rates on the dollar are going to be lower, so there's no point in sitting in an asset class that is not going to generate them yield. So they go over to somewhere more lucrative, which is gold, right? When there's geopolitical events, investors go over to gold because they're concerned about things, okay? At the same time, when you've got geopolitical events, the prospect of interest rates being cut is diminished, all right? Why is gold not moving up? Because your dollar's froze. Whatever direction this takes, gold will do the opposite. Focus on dollar, and I'll tell you why. Because if dollar starts to pump from this range and breaks above 97, that will confirm that investors don't even want risk anywhere. They want to sit in cash. Interest rates are going to be kept at the levels that they are. Just look. Have a look at this, right? Look at where we are with interest rates after the Fed speakers, Barron and Bauman today, Barkin and Bauman. Who was it? Yeah, Barkin and Bauman, right? That's moved up to 89.9. Okay, 89%, sorry. Okay, and that's March. Go into April. Look at those odds. 76.1. In April, they were a little bit lower. But okay, 76.1. Now going into June, evens. All right? It's as we progress when we'll start to understand where our rates are going to be. Expectation is by September, we're going to get a rate cut to 3.25, 3.5%. Okay? Miran's been asking for a whole percentage point cut. I don't think they're going to get that, given that we've just missed out on the data for the non-farm payrolls and the JOLTS job openings report. It's going to be a volatile week, ladies and gentlemen, and that's without the data. So we're basically trading blind. The market doesn't know what the current situation is with inflation. And I bet you if they do turn around and say that they're not going to give us the data on jobs, then what if they don't give us the data on inflation? That, for me, would mean that they are actually cooking the data. They don't want anyone to think that the US is struggling. But the second you see dollar breaking 97 and gold's not making a move just yet, that means investors are going into the safety of cash. They're getting rid of gold because gold's had its run. In my opinion, they've hedged themselves. Look at this run up. Absolutely wonderful. Okay? This is a wipeout. A lot of people are concerned about what's happened with gold, but equally, according to Deutsche Bank and a couple of the other main Wall Street banks, they are saying that people are still adding silver and gold to their portfolios. Okay? So just remember that. Keep an eye on the dollar and monitor what it does. If it breaks higher, avoid sitting in gold. Why? Because investors will be seeking the safety of the dollar. And of course, the yield on the dollar is going up. Okay? Any questions? Yes. Anytime, man. It's all good. It's all good. All right, then. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, just quickly going back into Bitcoin. Keep an eye on dollar yen as well. Keep an eye on dollar yen. Where's it at? Yeah, just keep an eye on dollar yen this evening going into Asia. But the volatility index, there it is. That is brilliant. But I promise you this. It's going to go up. Markets come down, yeah? It's going to come back down because the markets are going to go up. You've got AMD news announcements coming out soon, okay? So just take that into consideration when you are actively trading tonight, all right? VIX at 90. Yeah, I know. Wouldn't mind a spike lower on Bitcoin. I think Sailor's Callers is saying, Tina, can you highlight the nice VIX trend? The nice VIX trend. Yeah, there it is right there. Look, this is what you got to be careful of. This is what you call a bearish market in principle. When the VIX goes up slowly and progressively, these spikes up and down, you can guarantee it's just investors positioning themselves. They're the one thing that you can exploit, all right? But when it's trending, do not fight the VIX when it's trending, okay? Every trend you see in the VIX, do not fight it. Just get ready for it to break down, all right? Because then that's when you start going long on everything, all right? Cool. Bitcoin ETF inflows, outflows. That would be over here. I mean, BlackRock ETF has just been offloading quite a bit. Let's have a look at that. So 8 hours ago, they sold quite a bit, but then going into it, 1 hour, 2 hour, and 3 hours ago, we've had some purchases. So 4 hours ago, we had some purchases. But you know what? The frequency of them offloading on the ETF in comparison to the amount that they've been putting into the ETF, quite frankly, the ETF for me is just a hedging play. That's all it is. That is all it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's just hedging. They're shorting it on futures. They'll go into it on spot. It's just, I just think it's just a mad. It's at 770,000 still, I think it is. Still up there, you know? So I wouldn't be worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all, you know? But again, this is a very important area for Bitcoin on the daily time frame, okay? Very important area. One more flush to the downside. And as long as they sustain the idea of interest rates not being cut, Bitcoin can go easily down to the 60K mark. Easy. All right? Because we're in an event-driven risk. All right? Everyone's been saying that this is the low, this is the low. Hopefully it is the low. Well, give me proof of that, Bitcoin. Start trading upwards. Because all you've done in the last few days, look, negative 1, 2, 3, 4. One candle, the bull is back. 2. There you go. How mad is that? They see one candlestick, the low is in, and they just got screwed. You really want to be favoring Bitcoin's price to the upside if it can get above the 5 and 13 EMA on the daily time frame. Till then, do not entertain any longs. Why are you going to entertain it? Because you're going to be buying Bitcoin as it goes down and down and down? Okay, that's a different strategy. But if you want to buy Bitcoin on the assumption that it's trending upwards, wait till it crosses the 5 and 13 EMA. It's the most simplest form of understanding momentum on the daily time frame. That's all you got to do. Wait for it to cross over that 5 and 13 EMA, which is this red line and this yellow line. Happy days. That's all you got to do. Yes, shouldn't silver be going up if oil went up? They're both commodities. This is what you've got to understand about commodities. There's commodities that are like oil, which is obviously geopolitically driven. At the same token, back in subprime mortgage crisis 2007, 2008, oil went on a $150 rally to about $148 a barrel. All right? They priced in the crash, and then the crash happened. So when you go and study oil's price, when it made that rally to $143, $144 a barrel, I mean, what's brilliant is this. Some Saudis had invested a 7% stake through Barclays only a few weeks before the major crash. I mean, that is just brilliant, isn't it? You know, 7%, and the rally started from about $70, $80, something like that. So yeah, they played the market. That's what this is, man. It's a fuckery of a game, but that's how it is. But like I said, investors will go into oil when they're really concerned about things. Oil and gold should be going up, all right? But gold has already had its run, okay? But oil hasn't had its run yet because you've obviously got Donald Trump that is effectively in charge of Venezuelan oil, and all this oil is now going to be consumed. So it is going to have an impact on price. He does want it to go down to $50 a barrel. The problem is with geopolitical tensions, if oil keeps going up, that's going to have an impact on inflation, all right? And that's what this Walsh guy is concerned about. So Trump has to do a very good job of making sure that oil stays down, because if inflation is going to creep back up, you ain't getting no rate cuts, ladies and gentlemen. And forget what we're looking at in terms of the Fed watch. Those can change at any moment's notice. Someone can say something, and then it just completely changes the narrative. All right? Do you use the 5 and 13 EMA on the 1 or 5 minute for scalping? No, I don't. They're too... There's too much chaos with them on the smaller time frames. If you're going to use the smaller time frame moving averages on the 1 minute time frame, use the 200 EMA and the 800 EMA on the 1 minute time frame, and then use the 200 EMA and the 5 and the 50 EMA on the 5 minute time frame. All right, those are the best things for you. Yes, that is very true. Tino, what mechanism causes market participants to change the perception of value, and how can that shift be measured before price reflects it? What a wonderful question. Let's break it down. What do you understand to be as the perception of value? The first thing you got to say to yourself is, how many dollars can I buy with my euros? How many euros can I buy with my dollars? When you're dealing with Forex, you have to be dealing with extremes. Let's break it down. First things first, dollar. Where is it? Extreme. Look at where we are. It's at a massive extreme. At this extreme, investors are thinking, right, how many dollars can I buy with my euros? Let's go and have a look at our euros for a second then. Well, euro's doing bloody brilliant, isn't it? Wonderful. So euro is at the highs, okay? That means I am now getting more dollars off the back of my euros. Hold on a second, Tino. What did they just do? Oh, yeah, they just appointed this dude, Walsh, to come in and exercise his hawkish mentality. What does that mean? Well, it means the dollar yield is going to be higher for longer. So that means what? I better fucking get in and start buying up as many dollars as I can, because the future's looking like it's going to be increasing in value. Let me start selling my euros. Euro starts to turn down. Eurozone has just seen a slowdown in profits overall in the whole region. All right, so that's a little bit concerning. The stock's down now at nearly 4% today. It's taken a bit of a smack. So maybe they're starting to unwind from the euro and they're going to start going over into the dollar. All right. That is where you get the perception of value. Now, you're asking, how do you price it in? How do you know when it's going to happen? Well, are you at extremes? Yes for dollar, yes for euro. Are you extremes on the yen? Yes, you are. Where are we at? Where's the yen? Okay, the yen's right here, and I expect yen to continue with its narrative to the downside. I believe that once the dollar does actually engage in the 100 mark, once we get above that spot, that's when you're going to see everything switch. Okay, because now you'll be able to buy a load of assets with your decent dollar, and then you can just convert it over into the appreciation of assets across the board. But we just need to see a wipeout. We need to see a wipeout, and it's actively happening. But when you think about it, it's actually not. Let's just not really, boast about it right now. But NASDAQ is only in exactly the same spot it was yesterday. Like, there's nothing to be concerned about. This is not crashing. It's just one candlestick, but it's doing a good job of rejecting that range. All right? It's all on earnings, ladies and gentlemen. If the earnings companies do not come through, and articles like this that start to make people think, oh no, this is a problem for software companies. Well, NASDAQ is made up of a lot of software companies, and you can appreciate that they haven't liked that. Okay? The best way for you to approach the market, guys, is to understand where you are from a macroeconomic perspective. Interest rates are high. That's when you have to pay attention. I never used to pay attention to interest rates. I never used to pay attention to data. I never cared about it. Why? Because interest rates were at 0.25%. I didn't need to give a shit about that. Money was cheap. So what? Why do I need to care about non-farm payrolls? Obviously, I was paying attention to it because I was able to capture moves on that. But I never needed to care because monetary policy was so loose. They weren't charging nothing. Then they started to increase the interest rates. Now things start to get a little bit expensive. That's why all this capital expenditure that's happening in AI companies is causing investors to get a little bit concerned. Why? Well, because any money that's being borrowed, Oracle trying to offer out high-grade bonds, okay, just to raise some capital. What are you doing that for? You're in tech. You're doing business partnerships all day. Money's being recycled. Why are you trying to raise money by offering your high-grade bonds? That's not good. That looks like there's trying to be an adjustment in your finances. Like, what's going on there? That's going to make investors think twice about investing. That's going to make investors think, hold on a second. You're borrowing money at these rates, and AI is not cheap. So that's why you're seeing the NASDAQ do this. If NASDAQ continues to do this, then we got a bit of a problem. But this is the longest time it's spent towards its all-time highs. A long time. S&P's claimed its all-time high. Dow's claimed its all-time high. It just proves to you that big tech, Mag 7, unless all of them are clearing all-time high, NASDAQ ain't doing nothing. Look at NVIDIA. Where's NVIDIA at? Here we go. Where's your all-time high, NVIDIA? Not there. Okay, cool. Microsoft, see you later. Amazon, nah. Google, king. Meta, chilling out. Apple, GameStop, well. MicroStrategy, off you go. Intel, close. But if it's not NVIDIA, ladies and gentlemen, they don't give a shit. Nearly $5 trillion worth of liquidity in this stock. That's a lot of people's money actively playing it. This breaks down, New York market breaks down. Simple as. Google right now is holding the NASDAQ. It really is. But its market cap is nowhere near as good as what NVIDIA's is. And Jensen today come out with an idea that he's trying to get into an industrial AI partnership. They're just feeding investors to hold on to the stock. All right? That's my expectation. I'm in the idea that we're going to see a very interesting move across the board. Just get ready for discount because Buffett said it. You know, you have to behave when the blood is spilt. Be there when there is extremes. We are at extremes. This is a mispricing of stock. This is a mispricing with what's going on across the board. Everything is overvalued, but it's a slow bleed. When the move happens, it's going to wipe everybody out. They're not going to have a chance to react to it. And then they're going to start reacting in the wrong direction. And that's when everything moves up. Just pay attention to the volatility index, ladies and gentlemen. All right? We haven't had our event just yet, and it's pending. This right here was tariffs. This right here was the carry trade unwind. Go back and historically study the events. When you see the VIX pumping up like this, I'm serious. Sell your limbs. Raise as much money as you can because the market will recover 100% of the time. Because the mechanism to hedge yourself is to remove your liquidity and put it elsewhere. Then what happens? Oh, things are all good? Cool. Let's go and put it back in. They always do it. The VIX never goes parabolic, ladies and gentlemen. It always comes back down. This is pancake swap shit. Look at it. Look. That was COVID. Even COVID. Bang. All the way back down. Every pump, it's dump. You guys should be used to that in crypto, man. Come on. You should be loving that. Tino Bitcoin short comfy. We want confirmation. We want the hairy chest pics. My bro. Really? No, you don't. You really don't. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, if you want to get set up similar to this one, and of course, similar to this one with Bitcoin, you caught a good play there today, guys. Mad love for that. If you want to take advantage of those sort of things and get trading regimes similar to the ones like this, where you get the documents every single day, then check out tradersreality.com. It's pinned to the top of the chat and you'll be able to get this access. But it gives you a structure on how to trade every single morning. All right? With that being said, guys, mad love and respect. Please trade safely. Platinum members are going to get a video out to you on the game plan of Asia tonight. So just sit tight. I'm going to get that out for you. But other than that, guys, please don't shit the bed. Don't worry. They're just buying the Bitcoin up. Always pay attention to the person that buys when it drops, not the dude that sells it when it drops. All right? Mad love and respect, gang.